Okay, so let's set the scene. It's pretty grim. John the Baptist, the fiery prophet who basically rolled out the red carpet for Jesus, he's locked away in a prison cell. And from that darkness, he sends out a message that pretty much puts everything on the line. Can you even imagine hearing this question? I mean, this is coming from John the Baptist, the guy who saw the heavens open up. And now he's sending his own followers to ask Jesus this one absolutely critical question. It's just a moment that's packed with so much drama, so much doubt, and honestly, desperation. The man who was so sure of everything is now having a serious crisis of faith. So, how does Jesus even handle a moment this raw? I mean, this is his own forerunner, the one who prepared the way, and he's filled with doubt. You might think Jesus would give a simple yes or no, but his response is, well, it's not what you'd expect. Let's really dig into this question and Jesus' super unconventional answer. Okay, so Jesus doesn't just shoot back, yep, it's me. No way. Instead, he points to the evidence. He basically tells John's disciples, go back and just report what you see and what you hear. And think about what that means. John was preaching about a Messiah who would be a figure of judgment, bringing an axe to the root of the tree. But what's Jesus actually doing? He's healing people, restoring lives, helping the poor. He's inviting John to look at the proof and connect the dots himself, to see past his own expectations. And then he tacks on this one final, really powerful message. It's kind of two things at once, right? It's an encouragement, but it's also a gentle challenge. He's admitting, hey, my way of doing this, it's not what anyone expected. It's super easy to stumble over it, to be offended by a Messiah who doesn't fit the mold. And he's sending this blessing back to John, almost like saying, I get it, but please, hold on. So get this. The moment John's disciples are out of earshot, Jesus turns to the crowd and does something truly remarkable. You might think he'd, criticize John a little for his doubt, but he does the exact opposite. He uses this exact moment to tell everyone just how incredibly important John really is. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. This is pretty much the highest praise anyone could ever give. Jesus is telling this whole crowd that this man, the one who's sitting in a prison cell, literally wavering in his faith, is the greatest human being born up to this point in history. The takeaway here is huge. Doubt doesn't disqualify John. In fact, Jesus lifts him up right in the middle of it. And then right after that incredible praise, he throws this curveball, this total paradox. How can the greatest person be less than the least? Now, this isn't a diss on John at all. What Jesus is doing is signaling a massive shift. He's saying that this new reality he's bringing in, the kingdom of heaven, it just operates on a completely different level. So different that even the most humble person who's part of it has access to something bigger than what even the greatest prophet of the old way of doing things had. It's a whole new ballgame. And to just cap it all off, Jesus makes this absolutely incredible claim. He says that John is the prophesied figure of Elijah, the one everyone was waiting for to come back and prepare the way for the Messiah. This is huge. It means John isn't just some great guy. He's a pivotal figure, the fulfillment of ancient prophecy. He's literally the hinge on which all of history is turning. But of course, not everyone's buying it. And here, the whole tone of the chapter just shifts on a dime. We go from this moment of incredible praise right into full-on confrontation. Jesus turns his attention away from John and toward the wider generation, and their just baffling refusal to see what is happening right in front of their eyes. So Jesus uses this really clever metaphor. He compares the people to fickle kids in the marketplace. You know the type. They say, hey, let's play wedding. And they play a happy song on the pipe, but nobody wants to dance. So they say, okay, fine, let's play funeral. And they sing a sad song, but nobody wants to mourn. Nothing satisfies them. It's a perfect picture of this generation's impossible-to-please attitude. And this just illustrates the point brilliantly. I mean, look at the two messengers they got. First, you have John the Baptist, super intense, lives in the desert, doesn't eat or drink much. And what do they say? Oh, he's got a demon. Then along comes Jesus, who eats and drinks with people, goes to parties, and they call him a glutton and a drunkard. They rejected both of them. It just goes to show the problem was never the style of the messenger, it was the message itself. You just can't win with some people. And this stubborn refusal to even engage with the message, well, it has some pretty serious consequences. Jesus then does something that must have been absolutely shocking to hear. He starts calling out the very towns where he'd spent most of his time, the places where he'd performed the most miracles. The towns he names, Chorazin, Bethsaida, Capernaum, these were basically his home turf, the hub of his ministry. And he says that on Judgment Day, it's going to be worse for them than for places like Tyre, Sidon, and even Sodom, which, were legendary for their wickedness. So why? Why so harsh? Well, it's that old principle. To whom much is given, much is required. These towns saw the miracles up close, they saw the light firsthand, and they still said no. And that makes them way more accountable. Okay, so after that incredibly intense peak of judgment and confrontation, the whole feeling of the chapter just pivots. It's honestly one of the most abrupt and beautiful shifts you'll find. We go from the fire of denunciation right into this quiet, intimate moment of prayer, and then he offers this amazing open invitation. He kicks it off with a prayer of thanks, and the whole prayer is built on this really stunning upside-down idea. He says that true understanding hasn't been given to the people you'd expect, the wise and learned, the experts who think they have it all figured out. Nope. It's been hidden from them and instead revealed to little children. And that's just a way of saying it's for the humble, the people who are open, the ones who aren't too proud to say, I don't know everything. I need help. And right out of that prayer, you get this one of the most famous and beautiful invitations ever spoken. And it's for everyone. It's for anyone who feels weary, who feels burdened, crushed by the weight of religious rules, or by failure or doubt, just crushed by life itself. After all the conflict in this chapter, this is the ultimate answer. So, how do you actually get this rest? Well, he lays out two really simple, active steps. First, he says, take my yoke upon you. Now, a yoke was just a wooden harness that linked two animals, like oxen, together so they could pull a heavy load as a team. So it's this great picture of partnership, of walking side by side. And second, he says, learn from me. This isn't about learning a bunch of complicated rules. It's about learning his character, his gentleness and humility. And here's the final, incredible promise. Look, he's not promising a life with no work or zero burdens. That's not realistic. The promise is that the burden you carry with him is just different. It's not the crushing weight you're used to. He calls it light. And his yoke is easy, not because the work is a piece of cake, but because the partnership itself, walking with him, is what gives you life. And that really just leaves us with this one big question to chew on, doesn't it? In a world that is so full of heavy burdens, what could it possibly mean for a burden to be light? And what this whole chapter seems to suggest is that maybe, just maybe, the answer has less to do with the actual weight of our problems and everything to do with who we're choosing to carry them with.